Recording is on.
Welcome to the governance discussion for Wednesday, November 18th. Starting with the governance 1.0 stuff. Just wanted to give another shout out to the community rep boost round 2. I know Peppo had submitted his proposal. So if anyone needs help with that, reach out to Sky or myself. We're trying to have the onus be on the award winners for that, but encouraging people to continue to do that. Wanted to look at kind of two different proposals that are currently in the queue that I think are kind of interesting. One is the first one is the funding for Omen Squad, which 0.1, I think. And so this is something that's been talked about a lot, about working on liquidity provisioning on Omen and having some experimentation with that. And this would be the first funding of that, which would be, I think it was 33 ETH. Sky, I think you submitted and have kind of been leading that. Do you have any?
Yeah. So it came up as an example today. Is we have a there's an Omen market on Vitalik's chess match that's coming up, but it only has $500 of liquidity, and on mainnet at this point, like given the price of gas and the how much you're going to bet versus how much it's going to cost you to bet, unless you use Ethereum, like markets that don't have at least a few thousand or something of liquidity are even hard to use as marketing. Like that could be a really cool marketing thing. Like Vitalik will tweet about it, like people will see it, but like no one will trade it. If it has $500 liquidity, like you could do a $50 bet and pay $30 in gas or something, and then it's not even worth it. So even to use like cool markets like that as for marketing, it would be good if we could put some liquidity behind it, which is using some of the like liquidity that we're asking for here. And this is a short market that's only like lasts a week, and then we could put that into another market, and then we could promote that too. But someone DCC1 raised in like the chat, he's like, should we even be promoting markets that like don't really have some liquidity behind them, because it just leads to a bad experience. So having some capital to move around and play with different markets in order to promote them and market them is powerful. The idea is to do this, learn how to do this in a money-making way. So how do we use DXgov's capital to provide liquidity on whether it's Swapper or on Omen to actually make money for the DAO? Now that's going to take some practice and risk and things like that, and we're going to learn. So this first ask is just for some amount of money to do that with on markets. There's a few people that have actually already expressed that like really we should be doing this in larger size, like kind of mirroring what Gnosis has been doing with, a bunch of the markets that they've promoted and backed have like 50,000 K in those markets. And that makes it a pretty good liquid market that most people can, take the position they want to take in. Now, 50K a market's obviously a lot bigger than what we're talking about at this point. But I guess the argument at this point is let's do it with some, maybe $5,000 or $10,000 in a market or something. Just make sure that we know how this system works and everything like doesn't break, and that like we can interact correctly and in a timely manner, so that, and then we can always ramp it up. We can't but we don't want to start with 200 grand. We want to start with a smaller amount. And so that's the plan. And it's just another test that like if DXDAO as a DAO can interact with its own products. Now we're using a multi-sig in this case, but eventually we would want to probably do it from like an Omen Squad DAO, or like a DX, like a DAO, like an Omen Guild or something would be cool if we could do the actions from there. But right now we're starting this way. So that's kind of the summary of it. I don't know if anyone had any questions.
I was gonna ask. I guess to me, there's kind of two different management parts of this, because I guess this is like 33 ETH that's kind of given, or a certain amount that's being managed, and one is on market curation, or what markets will be selected or provided liquidity provided to, and then two is like the actual liquidity provisioning. And I know, providing liquidity on Omen is tricky, and like how you balance that. And so like how exactly is that process going to go in terms of like the Omen squad or whoever is managing?
So we planned, the idea is to have, and we had done this in the past, is to community source markets. Like the best way to get relevant markets that are interested by people are to like get those from the community and other markets that might be out there, or timely events such as like that are happening in the DeFi space, or data around the DeFi actions and things like that. So there's people can we had a spreadsheet in the past, and we're going to revamp that, where people can put markets on that spreadsheet, and then we can do votes and things for which markets to create, and then to your second point, like how it's going to be managed. Clearly, like liquidity in and out of markets can't be like a DAO decision every time. That will be too slow. So anyone that's interested in providing input into those actions, I think we'll have to have in the Omen channel, or a separate Omen squad channel, that we can agree on like fast consensus on like within a certain time framework. But we'll have all this data on chain and the actions that are taken, and we'll be able to, after doing it a few times, like look back at that data and make decisions on whether it made sense or what we could change and how we could improve it. So there should be a back and forth of feedback and data as part of the process. Yeah. So does that answer your question, kind of?
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is to like, okay, we need to start somewhere, and then like more and more people will hopefully get involved in it, and then be like, let's do it this way, and then we can improve it and things like that. So, but we're just starting with some amount and some markets so that we can do something,
And should we look at that as a loan, an investment, or an expense? I think it kind of is probably all of those wrapped in, but I'm just wondering, like, if maybe it's a little bit about like, well, what success look like for this? I guess the number one priority is kind of Omen usage and learning some bit about that. But obviously I think it would be good to not lose. I mean, it'd be great to make money. But like, so I think, so it's probably,
how to frame it. I think we would have to, let's look at the parallel of like what Gnosis has been doing. And okay, Gnosis has been doing it on bigger amounts, but part of it is bootstrapping and kickstarting your product that you as a DAO own. So, providing more opportunities to like get it going and get awareness, and participate in it. So it's partly marketing. Like, yes, there is a chance that all the money could get lost. Like someone takes the other side of a market, and like liquidity gets taken, and then like we end up on the wrong side of the bet or something. But that's not the goal, because as a normal LP would do, you would want to hopefully remove the liquidity before you get to the point where you can just get drained on it. So yes, it is at risk. The idea is to turn it into more money, and it will be mainly done. The ETH will be exchanged to DAI, and most of these markets, I believe, will be funded in DAI. So there's that, but how to it's a mix of a lot of things. It's an investment to turn into more money. It's bootstrapping your products. It's marketing, and it's learning how to be a successful LP on Omen. And maybe the answer is we need to increase Omen fees to 10% in order to be a successful LP or something. But that's how we would classify it, I guess. But it's a good question. That should be asked for every time we use money like this. And we'll have the same conversations when we put money into Swapper, right? Like, we might lose money, we might make money, but the idea is to create long success over the long term by doing that, right?
I think it would be interesting to see, once we have scalar markets, playing around with some of, like the price ones on crypto, and even kind of setting them up almost like options markets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And the type of like new product to subsidize and support, as Omen is kind of like launching that. And that's kind of exactly what, we could.
So actually, to add on to your questions, Crystal, like the question is like a month from now, if it, let's say it was profitable and now we have more, like, because this is about $15,000 of DAI. Let's say a month from now, after a few markets, we have 20,000 of DAI. Like, at that point, is there any, would there be an action to send the money back to DXDAO? At that point, if it's successful, which we'll have to make that decision in the future, you're probably going to want to keep doing it, right? So the question is, like, will this money ever go back into the DAO treasury? Probably not. So it is you could think of it as leaving the DAO for maybe to be used for Omen forever. You could think of it that way, right? And or you keep expanding it, right? Like, so I don't know if this money's going to ever what would be the reason to send it back to DXDAO. It's still in control of the DXDAO community, but when would it go back, like a dividend back to the DAO? That would be cool if it was like working, right?
Yeah, I think a next after this would be a larger question on like how DXDAO is providing liquidity on Omen and how that's managed. And that hopefully is kind of some back and forth with the treasury and DXD holders too. But I think for this, it is definitely more of a investment in Omen.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Yeah, so that's that just got boosted. And then the other one that I wanted to highlight is the 1KX Gitcoin grants round 8 hackathon proposal that we talked about, I think Thursday on last call, and then on Monday's biz dev call, and then wrote up a forum post for that. So that just got boosted. So just go ahead and support that one if you feel so inclined. I'll be waiting until gas comes down this afternoon to do that. And then there was, I think,
when do we need the final text for the hackathon?
So Tuesday, I believe, the 24th. And so there was kind of some talk in Omen about this, and separately, on some of the possibilities. But and then Mesa, I think it would be good to finalize that.
Yeah, maybe I would get involved with the Mesa.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Related to this, I posed a few questions in Omen chat, and it's related to this because if there's an Omen track, one idea like related to almost like a Zerion or Zapper for Omen. Because if you're an active user of Omen, I don't know how many people here are, and this is pretty product specific, but it's really hard to keep track of like your activity and if you made money or lost money and what you need to do at a certain time before a certain date and all that kind of stuff, and all your my markets all just sit there together, and you have no way to know which ones are already settled and which ones are not. So that would be a cool platform, and that can be a third-party platform, or that could eventually be built into Omen as a user experience. But I propose it as a possible hack for the hackathon, but it may be bigger than that. It may be more of like a bigger, longer-term bounty or something. But it's one idea. If someone really, you could see someone wanting to make that for like all prediction markets combined and include Omen and have the other ones as well. So,
and isn't there like a problem with, I guess, conditional tokens, or like none of the standard skins now recognize them? So that would basically be the kind of project.
exactly. So there's now Gnosis has a conditional token 1155 Explorer, which is still not fully released yet, but that's exactly why you need this type of platform, because the only place you can really see your positions and tokens is on Omen, right? So you can't use other systems in the DeFi world to manage your Omen positions. So someone would have to build, as you said, like a custom platform specifically able to handle these conditional 1155 tokens, but make the experience almost like a Zapper-fi, where it's really easy to see everything in one place together. That would be pretty cool, I think. And that's for users and also for LPs. And without that, I don't think any of these prediction markets platforms are going to like take off. I mean, without Zapper and Zerion, DeFi wouldn't be nearly as big as it is, I think. And so you wouldn't be able to keep track of everything, right? So you kind of need that for these markets as well, is my view.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see it with prediction markets, how they're kind of just a little bit behind some of the other DeFi kind of products and service, but like also very different. And so that they'll have a lot of like maybe similar steps in engagement. And I think especially with like the presidential election, that was kind of like, I think, going to kickstart another wave of like secondary services and products. So yeah, I think it's a great idea too.
Regarding the hackathon, I haven't followed what is happening and how we are doing it, but we should try to take the most of it as we can. Something that I did on past hackathons that I organized, I highlighted, like, for example, not goals, but things that we were looking for on the company that was supporting the hackathon. Here, for example, as Kai said, we are going to be looking for something regarding prediction markets, or you can throw up some ideas, and from these ideas they can create their own dApps or solutions. Maybe they will follow another way, but simple needs where they can build something and also maybe even add more features over it, or came up with new designs or something that we haven't think on or we haven't came up. So that is that would be the idea for the. I think that would be great for the hackathon. And nevertheless, I don't know who is organizing the hackathon and how much time you are putting into it. It's a very important and powerful tool that we can use, and I think we should take it seriously to make sure that we are going to do something super cool that they will want to join in the next hackathon.
Yeah, Augusto, you may be talking about like a future like DXD hackathon. This is like this one, the one we're talking about right now, is really for a couple spots in the Gitcoin one that's being done. So they're doing most of the work, but eventually we can have our own too.
It's a great way to.
How is this hackathon happening? So it's not the hackathon.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a great way to kind of prepare for that. But so this was something. So 1KX Capital had sponsored the Gitcoin hackathon, and that gives them two slots for bounties or hackathons, and they've allotted those to DXDAO. And so we are offering certain 2 bounties, and there's a proposal right now in the queue to offer those 2 bounties, one for Omen and one for Mesa, and we're kind of talking about here because we haven't actually finalized what those ideas are. It's just a signal proposal, but it does say on there that first place would get 3 ETH and 0.1% rep and $500 DXD vested over 6 months as a prize, and that would be for both the Omen and the Mesa one. And so that signal proposal is currently in there. And then on the 24th of November, which I believe is next Tuesday, we have to submit the final descriptions. And so I think it'd be good to be able to, I think this is like Martin can help finalize the Mesa description. And I know Sky and Geronimo talked about for Omen. And so we'll get that. And then I think the hackathon is December 2nd through like the 14th or something like that. And then we'll have to figure out also the judging criteria, what we want to do for that. But I think it's a good, I think it's very serendipitous in terms of, we were talking about having a larger DXDAO hackathon. And I think this is kind of like a good way to get our feet a little wet and doing that.
Awesome.
Sorry, I was mute. Yes, so also it's super powerful to create a community. You can get started a lot of things if you organize it properly with time, and even more a physical hackathon. I think that there's going to be that is something that we were talking on about what is going to happen on DevCon for DXDAO. Maybe that is good. Maybe that can be a good place to organize something. On my previous company, we did a hackathon next to DevCon, and it was a success. It was a complete success. It was awesome. Then the other hackathon that we did in other places that they were next to a developer conference or BSEP conference, they didn't went that well. But yeah, just throwing the idea, I think would be awesome to start thinking next year about maybe a physical hackathon for DXDAO.
Definitely. I think DevCon is something looking like it could be a nice event for or a nice coming out party maybe for DXDAO. Cool. And then next, wanted to switch the conversation a bit and pick up the worker compensation structure improvements thread that we've kind of been kicking around the last week or two, last couple of weeks here. So we've been having conversations on this call about some ways to improve the worker proposal process, to make it kind of clear for new workers, and to also kind of just take a broader view of how we're doing that. So there's been some really interesting discussion on that. And so some of the things we've been working on, obviously the ability to get salary and die is one that is kind of in progress, dependent on a couple other integrations that we're working on. And then there was some other interesting discussion, I think, about not accountability, maybe the best word, or just kind of someone says evaluation of worker proposals, but how do we kind of look at work that is proposed and then is maybe paid for, and then like how do we like decide how evaluate that work? I think it's a really interesting question, and there's the idea of how do we come up with those things, and then like what does it mean to even like hold those accountable for that. I do think it's interesting just in the structure that we have now of worker proposals, that the act of having to go and get a proposal to get funded every 2 months, even if you've like worked here for several months, I think that is it has been a very good process for kind of contextualizing people's work and making them reflect on the different things they're working on. But I think we can figure out different ways to make sure that that process is efficient and that people are that we're reflecting on the work that we say we're going to do versus the work that we actually do. So I don't know if anyone had any kind of thoughts on that, or just other things in the broader kind of worker compensation structure, worker proposal area that they wanted to touch on?
Well, there are some rules that were already clear and accepted on the community on the DXgov level that can be encoded on the smart contract level. And as a decentralized organization, I think that we should start thinking on how to have those rules on chain, on code, trusting code, and maybe start giving the opportunity, or I don't know, like the option for other community members to challenge our proposals or our development to help us accountable, right, of our performance. Because right now that has been happening internally. It would be great to have something like that next year.
Cool. Yeah, but that thread has actually kind of got a couple of good ideas, and I think that's something we can continue to just throw different ideas at and figure out, because part of it is like every time an individual worker does something or kind of makes a proposal, that helps set a precedent and establishes almost guidelines for the community. So one of the other ways to kind of introduce accountability in this is to be accountable yourself and kind of maybe do some of those things for your own worker proposals. So
I just added some questions to the on the forum, and one is the definition of full time, because it's, I don't know what's full time. It's different in different countries, and or do you expect that everyone is just working till they drop dead? Or I don't know. That's for me. Also, if you have like part-time workers, they have to know what's part-time and how many hours is around expected. And the other thing is like about vacation. I think I know, in my country, you have an employee, you have to pay like 4 weeks for vacation, and it's not that it's just unclear. I think we should write that there is no vacation paid. People should take it for that.
So that is we do have that in the worker compensation guidelines.
Yeah, I did read that, but I didn't understand it, because it's like you have to look that you have like recreational time, but it's on your side, but is it paid or is it not paid? I think it's not paid. It's okay for me, but it should be.
Yeah, I'm laughing at Federico. In Italy, every 1 day of vacation for every 1 working day.
Because Catholic.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think so the kind of 2 questions were really like full-time. What is full-time? What does that kind of like mean? And how do you define that? And then secondly is vacation, right? How do we kind of think about that as a group? And I just got to give you my take on the full-time one. I think it's mostly up to like the individual on what they define as full-time. And I know that's something that goes this way or that way, but I think it's pretty hard to be like hard and fast with it. I think there's a generally accepted like 40-hour work week that people are doing. Like we do weekends here. There's nothing like set in stone that says like Saturday and Sunday shouldn't be work days, but that's kind of like accepted into the community. I think that a lot of people, I actually like take, I have my worker compensation actually at 80% because I do some things outside of DXgov, and so maybe that's what kind of people do. And so I don't know if it's just like community enforcement on that, but I think we should be pretty flexible with having like short, like very, very part-time, right? Maybe you're working 20% or that, and you'll be able to have half-time, part-time, and also kind of full-time. I don't know if we can create many hard and fast rules around it. For vacation, I think that's a similar issue in that it's hard to create rules around that I think could be fair and clear in like a way, because the worker workers are so varied, right? Because there'd be part-time, there'd be full-time in that. And so I think one of the things with the worker compensation structure in general, it's like how to have as simple and direct of like compensation with like no strings attached. And I think it makes like vacation or things like that a little bit more difficult because then someone has to manage that. So I'm just to show my cards, I'm thinking about this for myself because I'm supposed to do a new worker proposal, and it would cover the holiday season, the last kind of, and I'm thinking of going somewhere for that week. And so I don't, I think I will probably just start my worker proposal and it will end right before, say, Christmas. And then I'll probably just start my other one like a couple days after in January. And I don't know if broadly we can just have like, maybe we need to have hard and fast rules, or maybe just like a culture develops around it. But yeah, I think it's hard to be explicit about these things, or at least that's my take.
I also think, it's not that we end up that people start report hours. That's not the goal. But I think if we, I don't know, if we write, we expect full time is like 40 hours a week, it would be. I don't
Martin, can you put your microphone closer to your mouth?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So that's just, I don't know, maybe we agree. No, also I was thinking for me it's like 40 hours, 42 hours. But the vacation part, it's I think it's not it should be more clear in a way. So if you make a work proposal for the next 2 months, and you take a week off, so you just write it down and say will take a week off. And if you don't know, then you just compensate or take less money the next, or I don't know. It's not that we have like strict rules, but we have like for new people, they have like it's difficult for them to come in and first they have to figure out a lot of stuff, and it should be like easy, more easy, or that the goal would be that they don't have to figure out stuff like that, because it's like.
Can I chime in?
It's a social problem, like. Yes.
So in Sweden, we have like really good rules for all this, and you need to work 1 year in a company before you can talk about vacations. That's first of everything. So even if someone works like half a year and then that person quits. So what happens if that person quits? They get paid their vacation days instead of getting vacation days. But if you work for a full year, you can take out your vacation days and still get paid for that. So I think we could do something similar for us. We need a time frame where you can, like, if someone just comes here to work 2 months, maybe we should have something, I don't know, a program that says you need to work this amount of time.
I just want to say that one of the reasons I'm working here is that I can take vacations wherever I want. I don't have any rules to follow. I just need to deliver on the goals that I set. That I say I'm going to work on this for the next 2 months, and if I want to take vacation for a month, but still I'm going to deliver what DXgov considers like a full-time engagement for that for those 2 months, that's fine. I think that the less rules that we have and the more freedom that we give to our workers to be able to deliver the goals on the time that they think is right, and hold them accountable if they not. That is one of the most powerful things of our worker engagements. That we want to. I think that it's important to have the less rules as we can.
Yes.
And to be as clear and held and accountable everyone.
But there is a problem.
Everyone around.
There's a problem here. This is why there's rules in Sweden. It's not only because of like having rules. It's because of the health of the workers. Basically, you need to take vacation in Sweden. It's forbidden to not take vacations. And some people like me, I overwork. This is how I work, and I forget about stuff, and I just keep working for 2 years and forget about, I don't know, taking like free time. And I think like for now we are early talking about this, but like in 1, 2, 3 years, we could have people being too stressed out and hurting the quality of the work we have and stuff like that. So having a program could be a good guideline. We won't force people, but having them know that we are thinking about vacations and it is included in your work to take vacation if you work this amount of time, let's say. But I think, yeah, let people themselves decide, but still like
Yeah.
kind of understand that there is people that can't decide, and this is very, 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 very like often happens to people.
You know, I'm worked like you the last of like forever was my own boss, but what I see is it's maybe it's more long tail risk is that if you have some conflicts with people, now it's everything is fine. But I just if you have conflicts with people or we don't agree with people, the value they add, or we want to kick them out or not renew their proposal, whatever how this work. It's at this point it's very difficult not to have rules because people then tell you, yeah, I didn't know, and all this kind of bullshit. And I just think this is a risk, more reputational risk than any other risk.
Rules come from norms, and I think we're still forming the norms here.
Yes. So I don't know if you just say if you don't make rules, then it's no problem for me. But it's just if you have somebody not obeying like the general rule we have or the culture we have, what's our move then? How do we act? That's a different talk.
We can have someone write up. I know actually people that does this work for companies. They come into a company and write these cultural things and this stuff for companies. And this is a very, very unique company. So we could try to talk with that person and just see how can we form something that is good for the health of the workers, good for the economy of the company, and that makes sense for an international company like this.
Yeah, I think we are interesting, and I think everyone is coming at this from a very just what's the best, how do we create the best system in this? And so, yeah, I think in a lot of ways, someone said something about the Silicon Valley policy of like unlimited vacation and anyone can take it whenever they want. And I think it turns out that what dictates what people do is not the rules, but what the cultural and in Silicon Valley, like the leadership does. And so if you have leadership that just works entirely and doesn't take vacation, then no one else takes vacation. And that's separate from the rules kind of existing. So
yeah, I think the dirty secret with the unlimited vacation policy is that these companies don't have to pay out accrued vacation time that is not taken. So it's basically a way for them to sound cool and like flexible, but in reality spend less on their employees and taking vacation. Because in reality, if you work at an intense startup, you can't just take a month off. You would be lost. And
can people get fired for that in Silicon Valley?
I mean, I think it's just that you would never doing something like that is just not feasible, right? Like
you'd get shunned.
Like you would just be left behind. Like people would be like, "Where's what?" Like this. Yeah, you probably would get fired. I mean, you can easily.
So in Sweden, you can't get fired for that.
Yeah, well, this is why.
So this is why Sweden don't have this stuff. Like in Sweden, it's really, really clear. We have rules because you can't get fired, and basically, there is freedom, but not as close as other countries. You can't get fired.
I think this is such a broad cultural trend right now in the world where like the internet is like discussing different rules and regulations, and everyone doesn't realize that like the internet like defaulted to like American like cultural and rules. I think like free speech is obviously like a huge part of this, and everyone else is like, well, yeah, we just like don't do it that way. So we have no. So yeah, I don't know. Here, like obviously, like the default kind of has been to a like hands off, no rules regulation, and that's not what you see in Europe. But I don't know if
I
what
mean,
we
I
should
would.
do.
Different, Europe it's very different. Switzerland it's different. You can get fired quite easy. In effect, legally it's easy to fire people, but yeah, you have like a reputational risk there more. But normally you only have contracts you can get fired in 1 month or 3 months or so. It's not that you are fireable. In Germany it's very different. Germany, if you have a certain status, you can't get fired. It's a strange concept for me. But coming back to the whole discussion, yeah, maybe we should just stop here and leave it.
Yeah, it's a never-ending discussion, I think, as we try to figure out how to get there.
And
Um,
sometimes, it's easier not to have these rules because then, as said, the rules they form themselves, and so.
I mean, we will have people coming to us because we have money in the treasury, and they can like earn better than they do in their own countries or on the or like other work. They can work like 2 jobs at the same time without getting notes, whatever it could be. It will have a lot of this stuff. I think us not having HR or having boss or whatever it could be, we need to be super clear. Like, you are free to do whatever you want, but you have tasks to complete. Like, if you're a super genius and can do these stuff in 3 hours, we'll not punish you for not working 8 hours. Like, we want quality work. We want stuff to be done. We want a person that can be part of the community and like develop this. We don't like, this is my vision of
Yeah.
this. I can't tell you how you think, but I don't care if someone works 3 hours
You're
versus
concentrating on
8
value
hours.
generation. If somebody generates value, then it's
Yes,
doesn't matter.
but we expect 8 hours.
yes,
Still.
but then it gets to who defines value.
Yeah, of course, it's a
And
discussion.
that's a tough, yeah. But anyway, we'll more
Can we
ideas on that.
maybe have shortly Fran, because I invited
Oh,
him.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, maybe just a short word. It's about money streaming, and money streaming a little bit in this context. We just talk about it because it's like, for us, maybe it's not a big topic, but as I see, money streaming is like, if you create value in a system by working, it's possible to stream the money at the same time. So the one guy is working for a month and the other guy is streaming the money, and both of them can the one guy can stop working, and then the other one can stop paying this work or the day the guy has worked. And in a way, for me, it limits the risk for cross-border work. But we don't have this problem right now. Or maybe if you have a different structure where we hire people on goals, and we say you have 2 weeks or a month to complete, then we start streaming the money, and then, I don't know, somebody looks if they generate value, and then after these 2 months, the value stream is ended and we got the work. So maybe Fran, you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Martin. So I've never, let's say, I don't know much about DXgov. Like, I know about you, but I've never been in any of these calls. So it was great just to hear the conversation so far, so I could get some background on how you guys are operating. It's fascinating to hear that you're hitting the scaling problems of startups. So he's starting to think about holidays and how to pay employees. So that's quite fascinating. To give you a brief overview of what Superfluid is. So we're not on the mainnet yet. We're still on Gertie testnet. But essentially what we've built is a token standard that enables users to wrap existing tokens and give them new functionalities. And the main functionality that's maybe relevant here is streaming money. So this is built in directly to the token. And what this allows is a very, very cheap way to do it, because you essentially only need to interact with the blockchain when you open streams and when you update or close the streams. So in the examples that Martin put forward, you would basically have one transaction when you open a stream, and then if the employee stops working or for whatever reason you want to stop paying them, then there's another transaction to close it. There's no transactions in the middle, and the funds are completely liquid on both sides. So the receiver would basically be able to do whatever they want with the money at any point in time, including opening a stream to someone else. So, you can imagine in the future these streams being very interconnected and a lot of applications being built where you can basically stream on your salary to, say, a savings account or, maybe an open prediction market, right? So this is kind of how it works. You can have any number of streams. So as a company, you would basically need to manage one account. So imagine you have a DXgov salary vault or salary treasury contract. And that would basically feed all of the open streams. So if you have 100 employees in a couple of years, you still only have to make sure that that single account is always topped up. So you don't have to actually lock any money in. It's not like Sablir was implemented where you define a duration and then you have to lock up the full amount for the full duration. With Superfluid, you literally only define the flow rate, and the rest is up to you. So you define the flow rate, the stream starts, and it will continue going until you run out of money or you close the stream. So again, it would be fairly simple for you guys to have one account which manages all your streams, make sure that account is always topped up, and all the streams will keep going. Like Martin says, for me, one of the super interesting things is that if you think of the legal structures we build around service contracts, they are generally about handling what happens if one of the counterparties doesn't deliver. So you can think of, for example, when you rent an apartment, who pays up front? Do I pay at the beginning, at the end of the month? You have to leave a deposit. So all of that stuff is because the payment and the service are decoupled, and usually one of the parties pays before and the other party gets the service. So basically it's decoupled, right? Somebody gives first and the other gives later. With streaming, you have a perfect match of time and money. So it's really good for services because if either party stops working, basically you can just stop it. So you don't need arbitration or, so Augusto is saying, how's it better than a smart contract? Well, with a smart contract, you lock the money in at the beginning of the month. And then at the end of the month, if they didn't work or you want to interrupt it, you want to pay less, then you need a process there, right? And at the same time, you have to lock up the liquidity, and then you need arbitration. With a payment stream, you could technically interrupt it at any time, and the payment and the service are linked, so you could immediately know if they're not going to pay you. So it's better for the receiver in a sense, because they don't work over if the employee is not going to pay them. And it's better for the sender because they don't actually need to lock up the full quantity at the beginning of the month to in a smart contract, for example. I don't know if that makes sense, Augusto. Maybe you can just unmute yourself and explain what you mean.
Yes. Sorry, but I don't see the value of it of a smart contract solution. I really don't see it.
Because you're saying when you say smart contract solution, you mean depositing upfront in a smart contract and then paying at the end of the month, or what do you mean?
No, you can pay whatever. I mean, depends on how you encode it, but you can code anything on the smart contract, and there are plenty of solutions of payment streams on the smart contracts. And also, I don't see how is this related to the governance call. I think it is not. We have a developer call. No, sorry, but yeah, I mean, we have a lot of calls, and we have one that is focused for developers and technical stuff that happen every Tuesday. It will be awesome if you can join next call, and we can talk about this because it's super technical on the next call and see where we can use it on our solution.
Martin, we can't hear you.
So for me, it's more like a social. It's a lot about social, how people work together. Of course, there's a technical aspect about this, but yeah, also, friend, I proposed it and I invited him, so because I thought this would be right place. Yeah.
No, I think we need to do a lot of thinking about how we structure and pay people. And there's a lot of processes, cultural norms, and then also technical solutions at the end. So there's a overlap of a lot of these. It's interesting. So hopefully we can we'll chat more about that. We are coming up on the hour, and I just wanted to. There are like two other things I did wanted to update in here. And so one, I guess Elon is not here for an XDI DXDAO update, but I think there's another deployment there and some things going on there. You can check out the Keybase channel there. And then yesterday we had another governance 2.0 working group meeting with a bunch of the participants. And there was another kind of good call where we kind of narrowed down what are the foundation or necessary items that we're looking for in a solution. So what do we kind of need to maintain or preserve as part of the existing system, and then what changes or additions are made? What are the necessary conditions for that? I just uploaded meeting notes to the Notion board. I need to link to those in the forum. And then we'll be meeting in 2 weeks on that. And I don't know if anyone wanted to comment or add anything to the working group discussion there.
So we came up with a lot of requirements, right? That was the idea, and it happened. And what do you envision, Chris, for the next working group call?
Yeah, I mean, so the original schedule had 2 additional calls 2 weeks from now, and then that. And so I think we're kind of rounding a corner here in terms of coming to some consensus and agreement on things. I think that we have like soft consensus on things in that document. And I think that we need to think about how to the wording on it a little bit more particular. So I think that before the next call, we need to have close finalization of that document, and then we kind of switch to implementing and executing that. But I think the discussion on the call was good, but there's, I think, going to need to be a lot more back and forth to finalize things.
Maybe came up with different steps or things that we want to execute in different order, or goals. Like once we establish the requirements, like prioritize these requirements, or goals or things that we want to fix and change, and we try to fix them one at a time. Maybe we are trying to solve everything at once. I don't know if that will be the right approach.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, kind of not looking for the grand bargain that solves everything. I think that's a good thing, and I think we need to think about some of the other issues that are like related, right? And I think the DXD staking for Gen, that's something that's related to like the broader discussion, but is not necessarily required for it. And so it does kind of maybe cloud different things. And so how can we do this piecemeal? That's another good idea. Cool. Anything else on the mind? I put the DXD burn comment at the end, and we don't have much time to talk about it, but it's a good thread about started from Augusto about kind of whether or not to burn DXD. I think the idea of it is enough to talk about and discuss, and we'll see what happens there. But that's a good one to good thread with GIFs, lots of good GIFs.
Only 2 GIFs, but yeah, I should have added more, but they are well placed. Anyway, I was expecting like to see more explanations on why they voted on those options, and only a few people explain it. I will be interested to hear why the people who vote for 0.1% of pre-minted tokens thinks to mint that very few amount of tokens. Oh, in my opinion, right? But yeah, I think it would be great if we can get more discussion there, and it would be great if we can start burning tokens, at least a small amount, just to start. It's a very powerful tool that we have. So yeah, I'm going to create the proposal on Friday, depending on what was decided on the voting. I don't know if I'm going to choose the one who got the most of the votes, or may choose something in between. I will try to choose something in between, so try to reach some consensus there. Maybe I get smashed on when I create the proposal, but yeah, at least I'm going to do it.
Augusto, I think one of the things is the way I'm observing it is, like, I think a lot of people like the idea. I think the open question is, like, what is the goal and what do we expect to happen when we do this? And I think people, even though it was kind of outlined a little bit, I think people are wondering, like, why do we want to do this? And, like, if everyone's like, okay, that totally makes sense. That's the reason we're doing this, and this is the right time to do it. Let's do it. And then, okay, how many tokens do we do it with? But I think people are not even comfortable with, like, is now the right time to do it? Just like, is now the right time to stop the bonding curve? We don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But we don't. I think that's what people are. It's hard to vote on a number when people are trying to still understand, like, what is the actual reason DXDAO wants to do this, right? Which I think there's valid arguments, but maybe it has to be like in like 5 bullets. I think it would be easier for people to understand or something.
I think a related question that isn't super clear is, like, what is the pre-mint for, right? Like, we're using it for workers. We're talking about liquidity, but what, like, what is the goal with the pre-mint? Because, depending on how the goal is, maybe we burn it, more of it or not. But once you burn it, you can't, like, remint it, right? So that's kind of irreversible unless we change the whole bonding curve. So
I think that one goal is to signal to DXD holders that, like, DXDAO has DXD holders and DXD price in mind, and we, through making revenue and managing the bonding curve and managing the token supply, have an objective to, like, get DXD price higher, kind of, which is hopefully mainly through revenue, right? But as we make revenue, we can burn DXD. And
revenue is way more important, right? Like, that's how you give value to DXD and could burn way more.
Yeah, also, if you send revenue right now, if you send, if you send revenue straight to the cure, there are 2 things that you can do. One is to pay, and one is to send Ether to the cure, right? What we are going to be doing from Swapper, the sell price is very low, so we are going to be just sending pure Ether. But then, when you pay to the cure, you can issue more tokens, which means that the organization will receive a certain percentage of the money that you're sending to the cure, and this is going to increase the Ether reserve and increase issue more DXD. So we are going to still be receiving DXD if we do it the right way, if you use our money to generate revenue and pay to the cure. That is why it was designed to. It wasn't designed to use the pre-minted tokens just go giving DXD everywhere. I should say this is very, like I said, powerful. It's money that was printed, so we should be very careful about how to use it. And essentially, I think we have more than enough, and we can start burning also just to signal, like, well, we care about the DXD economy, and there is going to be a time where we are going to be burning, and we are going to be receiving revenue, and we are going to be paying to the cure, and we are going to be receiving tokens. So that is when the Ideally, we won't have any more pre-minted tokens when we start receiving payments to the queue that they're going to give us more DXG and are going to inject more DXG into the market through us, through DXgov. So we want to get the right timing there, right?
I'm not sure how many people understand like the way the decentralized trust or the Fairmed contracts work in terms of the payment to the.
Yeah, we have a very good document that talks about it. But
I was going to say that there's a great post. There's a great post by this.
It's a great post. I'm just saying. I would guess that even on this call, maybe only like 2 of us understand.
Yeah, maybe we can't.
You and me, Augusto. Well, I think that's about it.
Yeah. No bueno.
Cool. All right. Well, we're over time. I think it's interesting. We'll probably have the recording in right now. But yeah, thanks for joining. See you in the forums and Keybase. See ya.
See you guys.
Adiós. Gracias. Chao, chao.
Bye.